Last week, if you were with us on our program, we began looking at the temptations of Jesus. The book of Hebrews, chapter 2 and chapter 4, both point to the direction of the temptations of Christ and their purposes, and that He is now able to be our high priest. He understands us, He can sympathize with us, and we can have every confidence to go to Him, to the very throne of grace, because of what He's done for us. And so His temptations played a big part in that. Everybody who would go to Christ would like to know that Christ Himself understands what we've been through. He's not just a deity who has never experienced the power and the strength of temptations, that He Himself has gone through that. And so we looked at the major temptation in the wilderness in Matthew chapter 4 and Luke chapter 4. This is the first temptations we know of, is Satan himself goes after Jesus. But this is not the only temptations that Jesus faced. There's at least 4 other occasions or types of temptations that Jesus faced that are recorded in the Gospels. And I'm sure there was many others, but we're going to look at John chapter 7 right now, and the temptation is going to come from His home life. So I want to read a couple verses here, a few verses, then we'll back up and talk about this. In John chapter 7, verse 1, after these things, Jesus was walking in Galilee, for He was unwilling to walk in Judea because the Jews were seeking to kill Him. Now the feast of the Jews, the Feast of Booths, was near. Therefore His brothers, now this is His physical brothers, said to Him, "Leave here and go into Judea, so that your disciples also may see your works which you are doing. For no one does anything in secret when he himself seeks to be known publicly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world." And in case we missed the mockery of these brothers, verse 5 says, "For not even His brothers were believing in Him." Think about that for a moment. Jesus grew up in a home with these siblings. And He was the oldest brother, but there were several other brothers, at least 4. And they grew up with a perfect brother. He is the sinless, perfect brother. And yet, as they grow up with him, they never seem to catch on that he was not anything more than just a good kid. That he was, in fact, beyond that he was really the Lord of the universe. And so when He begins to step up publicly, they're mocking Him here, and it says clearly they did not believe in Him. Now we back off to chapter 3 of Mark, and we also see an issue with the home life. In verse 21, when His own people heard this, they went out to take custody of Him, for they were saying, "He has lost his senses." Now, who is His own people? We're talking, I think, now again about His family. In verse 31, it says, "Then His mother and His brothers arrived, and standing outside they sent word to Him and called Him." The indication is that even his mother and brothers didn't understand fully who He was. And we always find that strange with Mary, because Mary, of course, gave birth, a virgin birth, and so she had to have definite indications about Jesus being the Son of God. But something is still missing. She doesn't quite understand who Jesus is, or at least what Jesus' mission is. And so they seem to think that He is not altogether in touch with reality, that He's stepping up to proclaim something that is not true about Himself. So here we have this great temptation coming from His home. You'll find, because perhaps we are so tightly knit with our family, or because we spend so much time with our family, that often our deepest temptations, our greatest temptations, might actually be in the home. We're able to do well perhaps in the workplace or church or whatever, but at home we let down and we give in to our natural selves, and a lot of friction can happen there, and we can be tempted in many ways to sin. Jesus was experiencing that. He experienced first of all in John with his brothers, they're mocking Him. They make fun of Jesus. It's hard to be mocked. It's hard to be made fun of. Jesus experienced that, but He did not retaliate. Also in Mark, they think He's deluded, that somehow He's lost his senses. And again, He's a fanatic. One of the nasty words today is a fanatic. That person is a fanatic. Well, if you're a fanatic sports fan or fanatic politician or a fanatic worker, that gets a by. But if you're a fanatic Christian, something is seriously wrong with you, and people are going to be very unkind, perhaps, to you. And that's going to cause you some friction, some heartache, some hurt. How do you react to that? So I'm going to suggest to you that one of the places where we face temptation, and perhaps most profoundly, is in the home. Jesus understands that. He has faced that. And he knows what it is to not be understood, to even be mocked in his own home, and yet to respond in such a way as he did not sin. So that's one of the ways Jesus faced temptation. We'll look at another way tomorrow.